After 10 years together, I tried dating again. It was a disaster. I 32F recently ended a 10-year relationship. He wasn't a bad guy, we just realized we didn't actually have anything in common. Not sure why it took 10 years for us to realize, but that's life. There was no bad feeling between us and we message every so often. About a year later, I decided to start dating again. After speaking to my friends, they said the easiest way would be to join some dating apps. So I registered with one. I've always been used to meeting people face to face, so this was going to be a new experience for me. First date was always going to be a drink and not dinner because I didn't want to waste my time or his by sitting through a whole meal and we don't click. I matched with a guy and we agreed to meet in a bar for a drink. It started off well, we talked about our jobs, music, and film. Then I found I was struggling to come up with things to talk about. It seemed like I had to instigate the conversation. He asked me about Grand Theft Auto. I said I heard of it, but I'm not really into video games. He spent the next 2 hours talking about the game. He mentioned something about rank and reputation points. I lost interest very quickly and started ordering more drinks. I got really drunk. I excused myself and went to the ladies. I couldn't bear going back to the table to continue the date, so I did something I had never done before. I crawled out of the bathroom window. I scraped my arm on the wall and tore my top. I don't know what possessed me to do this. I never heard from him again. My first date in 10 years didn't go so well. Undeterred by my first date, I agreed to be set up on a blind date. I met him in a coffee shop. He was really good-looking and smartly dressed. He was an architect and we got on really well. At one point, he hinted at a second date. I smiled, then he started crying. I was mortified. I was looking around to see if anyone else was watching. A few people glanced over. I didn't know where to look. I could feel my face going red. I asked him what was wrong. It turns out he had recently split up from his long-term girlfriend and he missed her. I spent the rest of the date helping him write text messages to win her back. I sat there for about 4 hours while messages went back and forth between him and his ex-girlfriend. I never found out whether they got back together or why they split up in the first place. So my dates so far aren't going well. I did keep trying. I know I'd been out of the game for a while, so I just assumed I was a little rusty. I thought I would try a different app. I started chatting to someone. After a few weeks of messages going back and forth, we met up for a drink. I asked him to find a table and asked him what he wanted to drink. He seemed taken aback because I offered to buy the first round. That was my thing. If I buy the first round and it's not going well, he can't say, "Well, I bought the first round, what do I get?" This is from past experience. I got the drinks, saw he had picked a table by the window and placed them on the table. The conversation flowed and it didn't seem forced. I had my hands resting on the table and he decided to stroke my hand with his fingers. I didn't like this, so I picked up my drink to break contact. Conversation carried on. After a while, we could hear the couple behind us. They had clearly raised their voices and just got louder. I kept looking at my date, felt a bit awkward, but I wanted to know what they were arguing about. Turns out, they were both in disagreement about each other's parenting styles. It was clear they each had quite a bit to drink and just got louder. Eventually, one of the staff had to ask them to leave. They refused to go and it escalated into verbal abuse. Someone called the police and they were escorted off the premises. We had a laugh about it and carried on with our date. It went really well. After a few dinner dates, I noticed he would always opt to sit by a window or book a table by a window. I assumed he liked people watching. It wasn't an issue, just an observation. One dinner date, we had finished eating and he wiped his hands on the fancy curtain in the restaurant. I was mortified. I didn't even finish my meal. I got up, walked over to the bar and asked the waiter how much the bill was for our table. I gave him half the money in cash and walked out. He went to follow me out and heard the voice of the waiter. I think they may have wanted him to settle the bill. When I got out the restaurant, I ran to the end of the street and turned the corner so he couldn't see where I went. I know that was way over the top, but I just didn't want the awkward conversation if he had caught up with me. I blocked him. I thought I would take a break from dating, so it was another 3 months before I went on another date. I met this guy at the gym. We had been checking each other out for a while, and one day he came over and we started talking. It was a really nice day, and there's a lovely little cafe in the park near me with outdoor seating, so we arranged to meet there. We were getting on well, and then he asked me if my periods are regular. For a moment, I genuinely thought I had misheard. He said he used to track his previous girlfriend's periods, so he knew when she was going to be in a bad mood. My face must have had subtitles because he looked at me and said, "Just joking," and laughed it off. I don't think he was joking. I wanted to change the subject, so we ended up talking about why we joined the gym and what our fitness goals were. I wanted to tone up and not get so out of breath when I climbed up a flight of stairs. He then suggested it would be a good idea if I included losing weight into my goal. According to him, I would be really pretty if I lost some chub from around my face. I was size 12. I got up and left. Thankfully, he never tried to contact me again, so he saved me from having to block him. I had to join a different gym after that. Dating doesn't seem to be going well. I don't remember it being this difficult 10 years ago. I thought I would try something different because dating apps and blind dates clearly aren't working for me. There was a guy at work who I thought was really cute. He worked in IT. We had flirted a few times, and more recently, any IT issues I had were resolved a lot quicker than before. He came across as a little shy, so I asked him if he fancied to go for a drink sometime. A few nights later, we met at a local bar. It was a lovely sunny day, so we sat outside. We talked about the company, and it turns out he was a real gossip. Being in tech support, he could access anyone's emails and chats at any time. I got loads of gossip from him. There was a lady in accounts who was having an affair with the CEO, and my date logged in every day to read the messages. Turns out they wanted to go away together, and the CEO was giving the lady in accounts ideas of what she could say to her husband to get away for the weekend. She agreed to say work had organized a weekend team-building event, and she would be away from Friday morning and back on Sunday night. What the lady in accounts didn't know was that the CEO was also having a fling with a woman in marketing too. Two women in sales sent chat messages to each other complaining about another colleague, also in sales, who must have clearly lied on his CV because he didn't know how to do half of the things that he should have known. I know the person they were complaining about, and I agree, he comes across as confident, but he's really bad at his job. Recently, a questionnaire went out to all staff about things the company could improve on. We were all told it was anonymous. According to IT, it wasn't. He got to read all the things people had written and who had written them. It turned out people just complained about their colleagues. Apparently, someone in sales was using the cutlery in the kitchen, and instead of putting it in the sink or dishwasher, he licked it and put it back in the drawer. Someone else had an issue with their colleague, spending the best part of an hour trying to tickets to see the Backstreet Boys perform together. Others were the usual issue of heating up fish in the microwave, that kind of thing. The date went really well. We chatted, no awkward silences. Whenever we met in the corridor at work, we'd have a quick chat. We set up another date, drinks at a wine bar that recently opened. After talking about work, the conversation struggled. It would appear that we only had work in common. None of our interests aligned. He noticed it too. We decided to be friends. Admittedly, this wasn't a bad date, but it didn't go anywhere. I thought I would give the dating app another go. I got a match on an app and we chatted for a bit. He wanted to meet, so I suggested drinks. He was insistent on dinner. I don't like dinner for the first date, but he explained that his friend was opening a new restaurant and he wanted to support his friend. That totally makes sense. I admired that, so I agreed. We met outside the restaurant. He was really smartly dressed, very good-looking. His profile picture really didn't do him justice. He opened the door for me and we went in. We sat down and started talking while looking at the menu. His friend, the owner, came over. He introduced me and we had all had a quick chat. There was a red wine on the menu his friend recommended. We ordered 2 glasses of wine. Still looking at the menu, I hadn't chosen what to eat. The waitress turned up with 2 glasses of wine, but it was white wine instead of red. My date pointed out the mistake. The waitress was really apologetic. I said it's fine, mistakes happen. My date started being really rude to her. If you can't get an order right, why are you a waitress? I looked at him, shocked. Then he muttered she should have paid more attention in school. The waitress looked like she was going to cry and she walked away. I got up, went over to the waitress and said, "Ignore him, he's an idiot." I turned around and walked out the door. I could hear him saying, "Where is she going?" I kept walking. I heard the chair move, so it sounded like he was following me out. He asked me what the problem was. I told him I don't like people who are rude. The waitress made a mistake, it happens. I turned. I kept walking. He shouted I was only joking. No way am I going to waste any more time on him. What a horrible person. Although we hadn't even kissed, I felt like I needed a shower to wash that date off of me. Yuck. Needless to say, I've given up on dating for a while. Tell me your bad date story.